strangest thing. It's shorter than you think. No think. Longing is the music of our sphere. The gift of life is never more or less. It starts at any time you like and ends in just a wink. Pass me the light, baby.
Welcome to the show, or to my little thought processes anyway. Great for you to be here. Please remember, as per normal, I've got the chat going on, so any sort of comment or question that you want to bring up, please bring it up, not a problem. Now, I am pretty doped up right now. I've had quite a few drugs. That's only because I'm a little bit sicky. Alright, so it's all good. I'm here. Thinking is at least reasonably clear, but I'm on a druggie, so if I start slurring or going weird, hey, then we know why. I'm being good boy as well. I'm drinking water instead of my normal coffee that I like to drink, or some other water-looking substance. So, thank you for being here. I wanted to bring up my thoughts just around the amendments around the Health and Safety at Work Act, which really does control a lot of our lives. Even if we don't think it does, it really does. There's about 2.3 million workers, give or take, in New Zealand. We operate quite strongly under this HSWA. It was brought out in 2015, and the event that kicked it all off was the Pike River Mine incident. 29 of our brothers went down a hole, didn't come back out. Peter Whittle, the CEO at the time, he looked sad. I believe he was sad as that things had gone wrong. Fast forward a year and a half or so, we find out blind eyes being turned all over the place, found out that inspections were infrequent, substandard, found out that the miners were doing things wrong as well. just found out that so many bad things were going on. And a lot of those things were just unacceptable to the public. And this is what led to big outcries, discussion, and eventually went into what we now refer to as the Health and Safety at Work Act 2015. And there were a couple of regulations or secondary legislation after that, the General Risk Workplace Management and the, HSE, I think it was. Simon's put up a comment in here as well. Health and safety has just become the arse covering law. So glad it's been changed. Now, I wanted to jump on as well because I disagree. I actually do agree that we're, as New Zealand First, we're holding fire until we go through this amendment factor with a fine-tooth comb. The reason why I wanted to bring on today and have a bit of a chat, and I don't want it just to be a one-way chat, please feel free to disagree with me at all times. As you know, love that stuff. And the reason why I wanted to sort of bring up this chat is I hear a lot of people who I respect and have affection for who say, yeah, Simon, what you've just said, which has just become ass covering, it's hindering our work processes, we can't get the job done, it's just it's overly onerous, and it's just protecting the big guys at the top. Now, I totally think that those are valid concerns, very much valid queries to have. And Simon has put an addendum there. I want people to be safe, but it's gone too far. Hey, and in a few cases, I have seen where you're totally right. It has gone safe. Let's consider some of the facts. New Zealand is, and if I'm trying to fact check me as you want. We're all watching this online, so feel free to check me as I go. But I've looked at the latest figures, and I believe we're sitting at around about 60% worse in workplace fatalities in New Zealand than Australia. So 60% worse than Australia, and I believe we're sitting at around 300% worse than the UK currently. Now, for many in the field, they will be looking at those numbers thinking, ooh, this could be a good thing. What are you talking about, Elliot? What's this nut job stuff? What are you talking about? A good thing? That is 60% worse than Australia and around 300% worse than the UK. What are you talking about? Most years we sit at a rate of around 100% worse than Australia. So we do often find that we double the Australian fatality rates, and it's somewhere in the vicinity of 500 to 600% the fatality rates of the UK. Now, we are not a very good health and safety nation. We're not. Now, you can look at injuries, but injuries are really difficult to show the quality of health and safety in a nation. And why is that? It's because injuries might be overreported, underreported, definitions change sometimes, whether they expand out the reasoning for it, whatever you might have. So it's a bit more difficult to look at injuries. Often injuries are a good sign because anything's getting reported, a little cut in the fingertips or anything like that, and so we're able to jump into stuff early on and to make sure our people don't get hurt by the big stuff, severe injuries and fatalities. But our fatality rate is consistently far worse, not even close, but far worse than Australia, and far worse than the United Kingdom. I use those countries as well because they are comparable nations. The ideology and the history is very much in line. Australia and New Zealand, even more so because the timeline when we signed Treaty of Waitangi, you had the UK were scaffolding, engaged in flour milling businesses, so they were already operating. Whereas Australia and New Zealand, quite close. And yet we mostly double the kill rate of Australia. So we are not a good health and safety nation. Not by numbers. Not by numbers. We kill far too many. In fact, I believe in the OECD, the developed nations, we sit at the bottom half, and sometimes we're in the bottom quartile. We're not a good health and safety nation. We're not. we hurt and we kill people far more in our areas than anything else. And I think if I remember, the last numbers, agriculture was at that number one spot for kills. That's your forestry, your dairy production, your horticulture, all of that. Second were logistics, the movement of freight, trade all around. And the third one was construction, commercial, civil, infrastructure. So those are the three top ones as well. Now, remember that a lot of kills, a lot of fatalities, people being killed on sites, come from the oil, mining, and gas industry as well. We are infinitesimally small compared to those other nations. We are a drop in their bucket, and yet still, by percentage, we kill more of our people than those two. Why am I saying that? I want to just keep on reiterating, we are not a good health and safety nation. Our people die more here in New Zealand than Australia, more here than in the UK. All right, that's per 100,000 worker. So I want to just push that as well. As much I feel what a lot of you have told me, which is, bloody is getting in the way, doesn't allow us to get our work done. We just sit there doing permits and toolboxes too long. I totally hear that. I do. The problem is the numbers just keep on racking up against us. I don't support the idea that we should loosen things up. To have a look at it, I'm going to give you a look at what we're here to discuss. All right, so I'm going to bring up the act itself, the amendment bill. That's it there. Now I'm just going to start popping in there, and I'm going to just change. Hey, one second, caller. 1 second. All right, just so that you can sort of see what I'm looking at. This is the amendment bill, and I've been going through this as I can. Yeah, I've been going through this as I can, and I'm trying to look for it, and I'll let you know what I'm a bit worried about at the moment. Now, this here, meaning of critical risk, you would have heard this before already, but I'm trying to really paraphrase what some of the politicians and the advocates for this bill have been pushing, and that's that they want to have a focus on critical risk, but they also want to free up businesses to engage in more work to be able to be done without having to focus on everything, if you will. So I respect that. Now that is from one of the committees. I want to actually look for there we go. Section 3, Section 7, Section 8, 9, 17. Right, so first off here, they are looking at changing the ideas of a company, organization, if you will. Right, this is the meaning of a PCBU. Okay, all right. I need to clarify some stuff first. Let me remove this. Okay, this is the way in health and safety legislation. This is the way it's worked for since 2015. Is you've got four groups, if you will, or entities who've got obligations under the law. You've got your first one is your PCBU, persons conducting business or undertaking, and those ones, entities probably more accurate word. But if you want company, Fonterra, Sky City, Countdown, the police, churches, marais, everything. So it's basically it's an entities, organisation. World Vision as well, PCBU. Then you've got officers. Officers are those who can change the way that a organisation does things. So that's your CEO, your COO, your CFO, your board, your governance board, directors, and so the top dogs, the top dogs. Then you've got us. These are workers, and that's your workers, your volunteers, your contractors, your subcontractors. It's all of those guys. And then you've got others, clients, customers, that sort of buzz. So you've got four groups, if you will, of those who have to do things under health and safety law. PCBU, officer, workers, and others. So those are the 4 that we've got. Now, at the moment, a PCBU has got the massive majority of looking after health and safety on our sites, on our shops, on our companies, everything. And they have to. So when you look at prosecutions and convictions under incidents from the health and safety, it's almost always a conviction against a PCBU. Right, so the 4, PCBU, officer, worker, other. But the PCBUs hold the massive amount. The company, it's their job to make sure that everyone's kept safe on site. They've got to provide training, they've got to provide PPE, they've got to do all of that. Right. Officers have to sort of show that they care about health and safety. They've got to show that they're sort of tracking it along and making sure they're putting rules in place. Us as workers, there's actually only four obligations we have. That's keep yourself safe, don't hurt or kill other people by what you don't do, do what you're told, and cooperate with health and safety stuff as well. And then others, if you go on a plane, you'll hear this, but look after yourself, don't hurt or kill others, and do what you're told. All right, if it's reasonable. Look, I'm giving you some good lessons on the law. Okay, so those are the 4: PCBU, officers, workers, others. Yes, I know. I'm going over it again. I know that. It's just so that for those of us who don't know the legislation and why this whole amendment thing's coming into play, that's why. All right, I'm going to go back into it again. So it used to be that a PCBU organization was just a PCBU was a PCBU. Now what they're going to do, probably a really big change, is meanings of PCBU and small PCBU. So this is a new one. Now what they're going to do here is, in this act, unless the context otherwise requires, small PCBU means a PCBU in whose business is undertaking fewer than 20 workers carry out work. Right? So, but that's it. So if you've got 19 or less workers for an organization, a PCBU, then you will be a small PCBU. A small PCBU. All right. That's one example. All right. There's reasons why they brought it like that. Now, another amendment that they want to do here is the critical risk factor. 22A. In this actor, unless the context otherwise provides, critical risk means, and it was a risk that is associated with. But instead of that, what they've done now is critical risk means a risk that is associated with a hazard described in 1A, or, and this is probably the big one for us who don't live in legislation, risk associated with a hazard of any kind, and if the risk occurs, likely to result in any one or more of the following: a death, notifiable injury or illness, collapse of a building, partial collapse of a structure, serious head injury, amputation of fingers, digits, or whatever, things of that nature. A notifiable incident as well, occupational disease. So it's bad stuff. All right, critical risk, very bad, serious injury or death, and with notifiable incidents. All right, okay. So far, I get it. What they're trying to do is to shave down the grey areas just to try to make it a little bit more clarified. All right, that's fine. I'm going to show you, I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit because I want to show you what just worries me a bit. This is what worries me. Other people may be worried about or not, but this worries me a little bit. So yeah, section 23, this is a part of the notifiables: fracture skull, blood clot, bleeding on the brain, all that, Now, what am I looking for? Here we go. So 25A, small PCBUs, scope of duties. Again, this is a huge change because we just had PCBUs before. Now it is a difference between a PCBU and a small PCBU. Small PCBU is required to comply with the following provisions: critical risk provisions, only in relation to critical risks. Regulation 9, they've got to provide information, supervision, training, instruction, general duty to provide PPE, ensure PPE is worn or other persons. All right. And so what it's saying is that they're going to really prioritize anything to look after critical risks. Now, currently, that's what they do anyway but they also look after other things. For example, abusive behavior by people, or maybe lacerations, but not considered to be lethal type of lacerations, maybe slices to fingers and tips and such like. Now, yeah, so I do want to just point that out as one of the big ones, which is they're looking at really having the small PCBs focus on critical risks, where I and others have a bit of we have a deep concern, is that it seems to be moving away from having the small PCBs overlook everything. Now, it's the everything element is sort of still there. They still have what we call Section 36, but it takes it away a little bit, and it means that the small PCBUs just have to really focus on the critical risks. Now that worries us from the worker point of view, because some of those smaller hazards and risks could still seriously hurt our people. And if you're saying, no, we just need to worry about the trench collapsing in on our team, or a pallet that might fall and kill someone from up there, we only would worry about that. We don't have, but they may say something along the lines of, we don't have to worry too much about getting the weight distribution belts, the holders, the lifters. We may not say, no, we don't care. We don't have to get an electric pallet jack or something like that, because hey, that's not a critical risk. So you could actually, after a while, start to put serious wear and tear on your back by lifting things all the time, because a small PCB might be able to say, hey, well, we're focusing on this. We don't have to worry about this. So we don't have to provide you with ways of protecting you from getting over time hunchback, stretched out muscle tendon systems, or even certain gloves that, sure, may cost a bit more, but they keep our teams much safer from laceration, bends, crushing points, things of that nature. It's still not the big one that I'm worried about. So here you've got your large PCBUs. So they're calling it large PCBUs, I suppose. All right. All PCBUs. This is just about that you have to have a look at your work scope and say, yep, this is a critical risk or not. I get that. That's fine. It's in line with what they're saying. I'm purposely popping through because some of these are just good arguments to have with people around. There's one that I'm looking for. Section 36 to 43, I think it is. These are ones who deal with the obligations of your PCBU, and of course, it's going to be changed a little bit. 40, 41, 42, 43. Here we go. This one here is the one that I worry about the most. All right, this is the one I worry about the most. Section 44, amended duty of officers. So yeah, there's some changes here. Okay, I'm going to come back out of here. I'm going to go back to here, remove that. So remember, officers in the law are the top dogs. They are the top dogs. So they're the ones who are the CEOs, the CEs, the COO, the directors, the owners. So these are the top dogs. Now, I'm really worried about, this is the one I'm just quite worried about. You may or may not know that last year was the first time in New Zealand history, before the 2015 new law came in, or the law at that time where it came in. But last year was the first time we ever saw a boss of a major organization get charged, prosecuted, and convicted for being responsible for a fatality on their site. And that was Tony Gibson. He's CEO of the Ports of Auckland. And the casualty, or the guy who died, was a guy called Kalati. He was from Otara. He worked on the ports as a stevedore. And those are the guys who will strap up the ship containers and they'll ship it back and forward onto the ship. On the third one, I believe, he was strapping up the strap snapped and he happened to be under it. Real sadly, he got totally crushed by that container. My understanding, I'm not sure what the timeline is, but the CEO left a little bit after that. Well, I think it was a year before last, the Health and Safety at Work Act was used to go after the previous CEO of Ports of Auckland. He fought the charge and then fought the charge. Last year, however, he failed. He failed to prove that he had done his due diligence in health and safety. He then tried to fight that. I think he took it to the High Court or something. And a couple of months ago, 2 months ago or so, he ended up failing that challenge. So now he has to pay the full amount, which is 190k. So that was the first time in New Zealand history, even before the Health and Safety at Work Act 2015, that we've ever seen a big boss of a major organisation in New Zealand get done. First time ever. I want to point out, Australia, the UK, these guys throw out massive fines to the top dogs, and they have even put some into jail as well. For example, I think in New Zealand, under New Zealand current law, it's something like up to 5 years imprisonment if they get found for being guilty of a fatality, whereas over there it's something like 20 to 25 years can be given out. So the fines are vastly different over there. They do hit their top dogs a few times, and they also charge them huge amounts of money as well as a potential for prison time. New Zealand, no, we don't. We just don't do it. We don't give out heavy fines, not deeply heavy fines, and we don't put people into prison. I believe the only one that I can think of is the Nelson incident, where a boy got brain damage after collapsing. The two brothers who owned that company, they were taken to court over it for health and safety, but at the time there was a whistleblower who said that they also had an incident. The two brothers who owned that Nelson company, or ran or owned that company, they end up, I believe, shredding the incident report and changing the timesheet. And that led to the police engaging to be, I think it was an obstruction of justice charge, and then they went to jail for that, 20 months and 9 months. But that wasn't the health and safety work per se, that was an obstruction of it being utilised. This is my big worry. This part here is the change to an officer. This is where I'm really worried about this one. And I really want them to, I don't know, clean it up, improve it. Don't weaken it. That's my thing. Don't weaken it. Right, so amended duty of officers, replace section 44.4. I feel like I should actually, what I might do is, let me have a look here, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the current one. Alright, so I'm showing you the current one. This, so, down here. Okay. Okie dokie. Workers, officers, right. So this is the current one here. Oh yeah, Fansala. There we go. Alright. There we go. There we go. Good. So basically, they have to show due diligence. They basically got to show that, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Judge, I gave a crap about health and safety because here. And this is when I say due diligence, it includes to acquire, keep up to date knowledge of health and safety matters, to gain understanding of the operations of the business, what's going on the front line, make sure that the organization has got the resources and processes to eliminate, minimize risks, make sure that they've got processes for receiving and considering information regarding incidents and all that, ensure that there are things in place to comply with the Act as well, and to make sure that they can somehow verify it. Now that's fancy talk, sure, but honestly, most of this can be proven just by going to board minute meetings and saying, yep, hey man, we need a stevedores code of practice. We need to make it so that we put rules in place. And then in the minutes you can sort of see that, yep, or that the CEO and the other guys in the board say, yes, good idea. Or everyone say, aye, sweet as, written down, and then boom, it's in your minutes. you can evidence to a judge that therefore you've done due diligence. You can prove it. This is, however, Tony Gibson was not able to prove this. This was the main issue here. All right. So that's what's currently there. That's what's currently there. I want to bring it back up to our screen and to show you. I'm going to show you again this area here. Where am I? There we go. In the section, due diligence means taking reasonable. So here it is. Due diligence means taking reasonable steps to understand and keep up to date with nature of operations, PCB's business, hazards and risks associated with the operations, and work health and safety matters generally as they relate to the business and or undertaking. Then they've split it again to ensure that the PCBU has available for use and uses appropriate resource processes to minimize risks, appropriate for receiving information, considering information, and implements processes for complying with the duty. Okay, I know, I'm very keenly aware, I know very well that this is all looking pretty weird and what the monkey is going on here. I totally get that. The officers, however, I'm just really, many of us are quite worried anyway about it. Here's your issue. Here's the issue of it. The main issue is that with the amendment changes, it is a valid argument to say, hey, I see that you're coming after me as the CEO, the top dog in the business. But hey, the law changes suggests that it's not me. Instead, it is operational. It is the obligation of the PCBU, the company. And so they can put the company there in front of themselves to be a buffer. Now, why does that matter? I mean, who cares? Well, the reason why this cares is because you've effectively got a situation where if you punish the top dogs will make changes in their workplace that are going to be much faster and much heavier. This is the nature of how it will work. If an individual person is at the top and they're being done for this, they will make good changes much faster. Much faster. If it's a business, well, that sucks, but at least we've got a buffer zone. At least we can sort of say, oh, well, you know what? It is what it is. And then you can sort of put it there. Whereas if you hold people accountable at that top dog position, you will find a lot of people get things fixed fast and hard. The Ports of Auckland's great place, at least from what I've heard from people who work amongst it. And I've known people who've worked before the incident and after the incident. It was actually an Australian guy, Roger Gray, I think his name is. He's the guy who's now in charge. He's cleaned things up a great deal. Is it perfect? No. But he's cleaned things up a great deal. It's a lot more happier site. The morale is much higher. People feel more protected, and we haven't had the amount of fatalities that we've seen in Ports of Auckland for donkeys. So whatever Roger Gray has done, it's great. It is, gosh, and he's an Aussie. He's an Australian. We had to get an Australian in to fix up a site in New Zealand. You know, so I think it is. Frustrates me. It does. It frustrates me a bit. I apologise for seeming like that, but it does annoy me somewhat. Just having a look here. Got a little comment there. What's that comment saying? Look, sorry, my software is going all awry. So I do apologise for that, team. So I'm real worried, and I'm really glad that New Zealand First, that we are just holding fire. We're saying, well, hang on, we're going through it with a fine-tooth comb, and at least that's being done. At least there's due diligence on these amendments. I totally understand people saying that, hey, bro, you know, shucks, the health and safety law was just getting in the way of us doing stuff. But remember, we just kill more of our people more than anything else. We kill our people way more than Australia, and way more than the United Kingdom. And it's a problem. It's a problem that we've got to confront, face up to. We've got to be able to do these. Now, we're still pretty good in terms of the overall world. In terms of the overall world, we're still pretty good. But it's just, I just wanted to come online to say I support absolutely our leader, Winston Peters, saying, hey, let's just pause. We want to make sure that our people don't die, that more of our Kiwis don't die. Because, the quad bikes kills, crushed by logs kills, being overcome by hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide kills. We just keep on killing our people, and we've got to somehow put a stop to it. At least bringing it down significantly. At least, man, come on, at least getting us to Australian level. I mean, they put it out there, so I really want to make sure that we're doing whatever we can do to protect our people. Because at the moment, we're just not. Yeah, we're not. So I'm not, I'm really keen to just have more of a read, more of a see about this. And I don't think that Brooke Van Velden has done anything dodgy per se. I think that she's probably well-meaning and wants to get more businesses in gear to go forward. Absolutely, I totally respect that, absolutely. But I just feel that we need to get more people who are coming from the front line, or at least know what's going on in there. I believe Winston Peters once made a comment saying that, and I believe he said it with respect, is that he said something along the lines of, she hasn't worked underground, I have. And he's absolutely right. Matua Winston is correct. We need to have people who know what it's like to have to lift some standards or ledgers for the scaffs, how to make sure that our ladders are 4-1, make sure that we've got 3 points at contact minimum at all times, people. So we do. I get it. We are going to do some silly things, but overall we should be a lot better at protecting our people from these things. I want to say more, but my nose is already stuffing up. It's already getting a bit blocky as well. But I love these ideas of chat. So I've come online because, yes, I am sick, but it was important because I was getting messages from crew saying, hey, you want to have a talk about this? I'll keep talking about this as well. And indeed, if ever there's a desire to have me come online to discuss things like the definitions of woman and man bill, the pushings around the crimes that do the coward strike law that's coming out, feel free to push me to come onto line. If I can do it, I will absolutely do it. And again, once I leave Auckland, I've been meeting up with wonderful crew out there. Love it as well. And can I just say, I'm really enjoying seeing protesters as well outside of the public meetings. The last one I was at, it was around the fishing stuff. I love that because New Zealand First is about putting our New Zealanders first, and that means that if there's people protesting, cool, do it. It's a healthy thing. It's a part of our our area that we should be able to do that, to have that discourse. I think it's healthy as. So I might go now. My nose is nice and stuffing up. I'm going to get some more drugs in my system, and we'll see. Maybe I should have an early night. All right, I'll stop drinking the coffee and buzz. But thank you. I will make sure that I'm online. You might come back on Monday. I've got to head down to Wellington. I'll be in Wellington for most of the week. Please feel free to drop in chat. I'm going to make a personal post as well, but can I just say also, please, thank you so much for the donations that have been coming through. I'm really deeply appreciative of it. It's quite humbling, and I want to make sure that I'm worthy of the trust that many have been putting in me just by chucking in here. Wonderful. I think I had a $10 donation. I love that. I love all of that. It was really beautiful stuff. So thank you so much. I'll put a proper a proper separate post up about that. But I just want to say thank you so much. And please, if you see me at the airport, or you see me on the sites, if you see me wherever, hey, come and say hi, not a problem. Make sure we're keeping safe and orderly and all that good stuff. But I love it. I love being part of New Zealand first team. One of the other things before I leave, great to see there was a journo. A journo has put out there. Oh my gosh! Look at the Winston Peters, David Seymour, Luxon teams that they are. What is it? He said, attacking Maori rights or something like that. He is, of course, absolutely nonsensical. But these are we are taking New Zealand and we are bringing equality back to New Zealand. That is wonderful. It is the bossest thing ever. Is that we're starting to get rid of those racist laws, those racist policies. We're starting to bring New Zealand back to be New Zealand. As you know, I've come from another group organisation, and I absolutely loved being a part of it. And if you look at that list, Hobbs's pledge, when I was fighting for that crew publicly, we were at the core of a lot of those policies and changes that have now come out. I'm very proud to have been right in amongst that. So, New Zealand, New Zealanders. Social conservatism, nationalism, common sense, patriotism. These are the pillars that New Zealand First drive on. I'm Elliot. God bless you guys. I can't wait to see you on the next one. Ka kite.